There are many exciting Nintendo remasters that are rumored to be on the way, but these games have been rumored for quite some time, like Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD, Metroid Prime 2 and 3, Kid Icarus Uprising, FZero GX. What we're talking about today is not so much them coming, because I already think most of these are pretty likely, but more so this idea that they'll be more of a higher quality, what I would like to call high-end remasters. Potentially with improved visuals like what we saw in Metroid Prime Remastered, or even with some new content like in Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. I think this is a possibility, and some recent news seems to be supporting this idea, and that's what we're talking about today.
Hey, listen!
Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart. I'm still here at PAX East in Boston. Please keep in mind that my videos throughout this weekend will still be coming out, but they're going to be of a simpler type to get things done, and because I just don't have all my setup here. But the videos are still coming, including today's video about high-end Nintendo remasters. But before we jump into that, let me point out a couple quick things. Thank you to some of the recent new members. Your names will be featured in the credits moving forward once I get back on Monday. And I would also like to thank a lot of you guys for subscribing recently. We have this huge goal to hit 25,000 subscribers by the time Tears of the Kingdom comes out on May 12th. We've gained incredible ground, so I am very thankful for this, and if you do enjoy my content, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because if you do, we may continue this momentum and actually make it. But now on to today's topic, high-end Nintendo remasters. So there's this rumor that's come out recently from our buddy Nintendo Prime. Now keep in mind, he only has one source on this, so take it with a grain of salt, but the story is that Next Level Games is working on the rumored FZero GX. Now FZero has been rumored from a few different places already. The new information here is that Next Level Games is working on this. So what would this suggest? Next Level Games is an internal Nintendo studio. They make some pretty big games from Nintendo, including Luigi's Mansion 3. And they have done some other games in the past that show a pretty good amount of variety. Metroid Prime Federation Force, Mario Strikers. They can make different kinds of games. I think they could probably pull off a racing game, especially if they already have a blueprint and they're simply remastering something like FZero GX. They're pretty good with animation work. And when you consider FZero GX, they had a lot of cutscenes that had some pretty cool animation, some pretty good character stuff. Next Level Games would be one of the ideal developers to really rework this and make it look amazing for the modern age. But with this in mind, it implies that the visuals overall are going to be getting a tremendous overhaul. Something like Metroid Prime Remastered, an incredible work there. But that brings me to another point here. Next Level Games is an internal studio, like Retro Studios, who worked on Metroid Prime Remastered. I think there is an implication that if it's an internal Nintendo studio working on the project, this is going to be more of a significant remaster. And in the case of Metroid Prime Remastered, it looks like Retro Studios started the project, they had this amazing engine running and it looked incredible, but they had other developers step in to finish the project because they are working on Prime 4. That may not be the case with FZero GX. They may have multiple teams at work here, so they may still be working on the next big Luigi's Mansion or something, but this FZero GX remaster wouldn't take as much work, and they still may be doing a tremendous overhaul for the visuals here, which would be exciting. FZero GX is one of the best looking games on GameCube. Its visuals, I would say, have actually aged quite well, and they'll look a lot better with a Prime Remastered level of visual improvement, which is basically a visual remake. But I think there's even more reason to expect improvements for these remasters, including FZero. So sticking with FZero for now, when we consider that they may be remastering this, I have a hard time seeing them remastering this game and not adding online play. So I think inherently they have to offer online play. So this may entail a bit of an overhaul to the multiplayer. Now there's been some debate about whether this would be a $40 price tag or a $60 price tag. If this game is a $40 price tag like Prime Remastered, maybe Nintendo's going to do like this grand thing where they just have a whole bunch of game remasters for $40. That's possible. And if that's the case, then I see them still reworking the visuals, but not doing much else beyond that. In the case of FZero, I still feel they would have to add online multiplayer, but it might be really bare bones. But if I'm going to tell you what I think FZero GX is probably going to be another $60 game, but they're going to rework the multiplayer and really spin it as a premier online multiplayer experience for the second half of 2023, so it could potentially take off as finally another Nintendo racer that isn't just Mario Kart. And I also think this FZero GX includes the possibility of adding new content. So not only do I think they'll obviously add quality of life updates to make it perhaps a little bit more accessible for more people while still maintaining the challenge, but I think we might even see some new content, like maybe new characters, new stages, maybe even a new story chapter or two. I honestly don't think this is a stretch. Of course, it does depend on the direction they're going, but if Next Level Games is working on this may get a treatment to make it feel like essentially a proper new game that's easier to get done than something that wouldn't be a remaster. But moving on from FZero, let's talk about a few other remasters that I think will be handled a little differently, but we'll still be seeing some improvements. Twilight Princess and Wind Waker HD. They've been rumored for some time. We thought we would have had them already, but with Tears of the Kingdom coming out really soon, obviously Nintendo's focusing on that. I think that with the Tears of the Kingdom delay, they just didn't see a really good opportunity to just shove them out immediately right before the release for Tears of the Kingdom, so Nintendo skipped a year considering their whole tradition of annual Zelda releases, and they're saving Twilight Princess and Wind Waker for what's likely going to be a very large gap between Tears of the Kingdom and the next new Zelda that may not come out for another 5 to 7 years from now. They are going to need bridge titles, and I think that's what Twilight Princess and Wind Waker are being saved for. But with this in mind, when we do eventually get them, I'm actually expecting some decent improvements here. Especially if by the time they're out, there's another new Nintendo system out there with higher specs. I think we should expect a higher resolution. I think they will be upscaled up to potentially as high as 4K. While the Switch 2 may not have true 4K, it is likely going to have DLSS because of Nintendo's partnership with Nvidia, so there will be some form of upscaling there where we could get something that looks pretty good on 4K televisions. Not only that, but there will have to be some minor redesigns for both Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD because they no longer will have the gamepad functionality. Which isn't necessarily an improvement, but there is something that I think that will be an improvement, and that is performance. I think instead of getting 30 frames per second like their original releases, they'll be bumped up to 60 frames per second like Skyward Sword HD and Link's Awakening Remake. When you consider that other Zelda remasters have gone the 60 FPS treatment, I think the same should be expected for Twilight Princess and Wind Waker if they're going to be seeing some changes here. And that's my expectation for when we do see them sometime between the release of Tears of the Kingdom and the next half decade or so with the next new Zelda. But moving on from those pair of remasters, let's talk about another pair of remasters that people are pretty excited about. And that's Metroid Prime 2 Echoes and Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. The situation with these games is a little tricky, because the rumor was that Prime Remaster was going to be the big boy remaster, as Jeff Grubb said, and it was definitely a big boy remaster, but that 2 and 3 wouldn't be seeing as much substantial changes. Now, we don't have clear information as to what exactly that means. Does that mean bare bones ports? Does that mean more simple upscales like Skyward Sword HD, or potentially something greater? I'm going to err on the side of optimism here and say that they're gonna look pretty good. Considering that Retro Studios had other studios step in to work on the Prime Remaster to finish it up, and they were working with this modernized engine that is incredible of some beautiful things on Switch, I think they could go back to 2 and 3 and make some changes. Not as many changes, but some changes, and they will still look visually better by a significant degree than 2 and 3. Now with Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, it's been rumored that they may be coming as a combo pack. And if that ends up happening, I think that does sort of open up the door for potentially 2 and 3 also coming in as a combo pack, which previously I've argued is unlikely. But, you know, it's not impossible. Regardless though, I am thinking that these will see some nice visual improvements and will look pretty good whenever it is Nintendo decides to come out with them, be it before or after Prime 4. That's a whole other conversation for another day. But there's one more game I want to talk about here. And unlike Prime 2 and 3 and Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, I think this remaster is going to be something closer to what I'm thinking we're getting for FZero. That's Icarus Uprising. I think this is the kind of game that would require significant visual upgrades. So when we do finally see Icarus officially confirmed and announced, it is still currently a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt, but I do think it's coming, and when it does come, I think it's going to look pretty good. It's going to look like a modern day game, and that's pretty exciting because Icarus Uprising was a very impressive 3DS game. And also this game requires some substantial gameplay changes because of the way the 3DS worked, having only one analog stick. It just limited some of the control options for Icarus Uprising. You were required to use the touchscreen controls on the 3DS, which is weird for a lot of people. Mapping that out to a second analog stick and changing around some other things with a more modern controller with more button options is going to benefit the game greatly, and this is going to lead to some significant gameplay improvements. But I also think that there's some reason to expect that we could see new content, the same way we got new content in Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, the same way we got new content in 3D World Deluxe with Bowser's Fury, the same way they recently remastered Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe from the Wii with an entire new epilogue story with Magalore's Adventure. I think the precedent has been set here, and this game also is likely to see some new content. So with this all in mind, I'm not expecting minimal remasters like 3D All-Stars and Skyward Sword HD. Those games are for the Mario and Zelda series. They can get off with just name and brand alone, but for more niche series like FZero, Kid Icarus, and Metroid, they usually need to do a little bit more work, hence why we saw something really impressive with Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition and its amazing epilogue story. But what do you guys think? Do you agree that the rumored remasters that are on the way are coming are going to have some substantial improvements, or are they going to be more limited? Let me know what you think in the comments below. This is Andres Restart, letting you know that if at first you don't succeed, try again. We'll see you all really soon.